So thank you for coming. We would like to welcome to this speech, and I will priorly thank INER for inviting us to present the project in this beautiful event that we haven't been before. And I'll try with this one. Are you acquainted? Left, they said. No. Wasn't working. Okay. This right one. Okay. Thank you. We speak on behalf of a community project made in an Erasmus Plus project, and hereby you can see the countries, 5 countries involved, and especially we were together like higher education institutions, academies from Italy, France, Lithuania, Sweden, and Ireland, but also health care companies that I represent in here, an institution, is we are very glad to present, and I thank you so much. And I invite you, if you are curious or you want to have a paper, at the last we have some printed small, tiny documents, I promise, that you can carry around. Why we started? We started because we felt the need to formalize the qualification of the visual disability rehabilitator. Our need was to to train a specialist, and the specialist that of course is already working in our countries was needed to be transdisciplinary, able to understand the work of colleagues and to work in a teamwork. This was very important for our needs, operative needs, but also to be able to pursue an user-centered approach and to be acquainted of new technologies. So we shared at the very beginning of the project that we wanted to develop a course, a training path that was higher education and a quality level, very important quality level. The reason is not only from our experience of rehabilitation projects, where we at the Chiosone Foundation have, for instance, a full team rehabilitating children and adults, so we know the value of collaboration and interprofessional collaboration, but also because we know that we want to perform a project, a rehabilitation project that is made on the personal needs, so from the birth to the elderly age. And this approach is meaningful because we enroll many professionals and many perspectives instead of giving the person to only one even skilled person. So these were our aims, our goals at the very beginning, but we are not inventing anything because they were already settled by the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, where it is said that it is needed to have very skilled and trained professionals to do rehabilitation to visually impaired people. And also in the 2015, the WHO International Consensus Conference was depicing strictly what is rehabilitation and what is needed for people that need or habilitation support for their life. But to my point of view, the Chiosone Foundation point of view, we know that we really need very trained rehabilitators that are not on the market. In Italy, we have a narrowed option because we have to involve healthcare professionals. So we need to have healthcare professionals skilled on the training, orientation and mobility, autonomies, and we are really in lack of those professionals. And we know that we have elderly that need support and they want to be independent, and children that want to live independently as well. So this is always why we started this important oMERO project, That for start, we try to see if at the European level, you know, Italian, somehow we are just rude. So we try to see with our partners if there's a profile already shared in Europe, and there isn't. The European Skill, Competence, Qualification and Occupations is only a list, a classification, but there's not such a profile already shared in Europe. And we have checked it out in our countries, or only by surfing. Of course, there are many other options, but internet surfing, that we find some technical courses, but not they all framed in an integrated transdisciplinary curriculum. This big opportunity of having one rehabilitator capable to talk to practitioners, but also to have a psychologist approach, or to work with colleagues of different competence, all together for one person. Of course, we know, and this morning the Polish colleagues told me that in general, the rehabilitation services provide training for their staff. This is the truth. The main thing is that I hire you because you are well trained in what you've been studying, and then I will train you. And this is, of course, good, and it is quite an effort for the companies, but it is not homogeneous. So our long-term goal is to foster a high quality and academic level training, and also, not only, also the recognition of an European qualification. This is our goal, to try to formalize and to gain these high quality level trainers. The VDR specialist, so, has to be a person that perform a global rehabilitation, and that is able to work with person with visual impairment, with or without other impairments, of course, because we are aware that we cannot be selective, but through a long life approach. And the target is, of course, to foster quality of life and independencies through the development of skills, but also through biopsychosocial approach. These are pictures allowed on the Concerne Foundation of the many, we are aware of the many approaches in the long life. These are professionals you can find. They are stepping aside. Don't look at the vision impaired people. Look at those who are sitting beside them, and of the techniques and practice that is needed to support. This is the important thing. I'm not sure which is the side. Okay, it doesn't go. This is our curriculum. No, this is our path. It is from the professional profile we've been describing, but Inger will tell you more about how we gained it. We went through the description of a full curriculum, and it is cited by some guidelines of how to implement it in a higher education context. Our ideas, of course, is going to be ameliorated, but also some tools to work with. So some plans for teachers, some learning materials, and also one technical simulator for blindness to try to make some technology instead of teachers, for the great effort of amount of teaching side by side for the experience that we know that are needed, the immersive experience to be a trainer, to be a rehabilitator. In next year, 4 of the higher education were involved to perform at least one course at the end of this project. But we would like to tell you that we are going to have our final event in July in Genova. And I have some cards with the program. It is a very short program because we only want to share the end of this project, but mainly we would like to invite you to talk about what's next, how to proceed, how to train rehabilitators in this shape, and how to use this curriculum as possible new approach. So please be our guest if you are coming in Genova, Italy. It will be very good weather, I promise. And I leave the floor to Inger. Between all those goals that we pursued to draw the new curriculum, we had another important thing. We will be going national multiplier events as the one in Genova, that is the final one, but we had a great experience sharing the best approach of teaching with colleagues from all the academies and companies. These were our experience in the short-term training event. We were teaching to ourselves. So we were teachers and learners at the same stage, but we had a tremendous week of training, and these are our colleagues involved in this important experience for the future. Thank you.
Well, I'm from the University of Gothenburg, Sweden. And I've also been a part of this project, and I really love it, I must say that. As a start of the project, existing qualifications and certifications in national and European qualitative frameworks, they were analyzed. And it was also found that there were no defined visual disabilities rehabilitator or a similar profession as the ESCO and European classification of competencies, qualifications, and occupations. And ESCO works like a dictionary describing, identifying, classifying professional occupations and skills relevant for the European Union labor market and education and training area. But there were classifications of related profiles, such as occupational therapists, opticians, special needs teacher, orientation and mobility specialists, etc. So the next step for this project was to collect curricula in the field of vision rehabilitation in the European Union, in USA, in UK, and in Canada. And it was founded that there was a skills gap regarding this role. And there was also identified that there was needed a new rule in this field, and that this new rule have to be developed. And there was an eDelphi study performed with 36 experts from European countries and from Canada, from US, from UK. It was to collect views and perspectives of professional experts in the complementary field of vision or other sensory health sciences and rehabilitation regarding the core competencies comprising the professional profile of the visual disability rehabilitator. And the result from this eDelphi study were then validated with end users survey. So this was a start, what you could say, about this project. So, yes, thank you, thank you. So, about this professional profile then, 70 key activities were developed and identified, and you have them here. It's about functioning, about adults, children, orientation and mobility. So we put orientation and mobility as a part of this wider profile. Autonomous, education, occupation, aids, psychosocial aspects, health and policies. And these are called key activities in this project. And there were 11 specific of the profile and 6 transversal. And as you see here, each key activity is expressed in competencies. and that is an integrated group of professional competencies necessary to perform a task relevant for the job profile. So it's all of this start with a job profile and identified tasks that are going to be performed. And it is about applying techniques to instruct, to advise, to adapt, and to introduce the use of something. Here are examples. I think it's a lot to read here, but it's possible to read about this on the web also. But we have identified some specific key activities. And to give some example, it's about evaluating visual and global overall function and capability in visually impaired persons in collaboration with the wider healthcare team. And this working in a team, that is very much stressed in the project and in our curriculum. And also to implement mobility and orientation training with visually impaired persons in collaboration with the wider healthcare team. It's about developing rehabilitation programs individually, also for groups, to support autonomy and independence, to work with professional and occupational activities. So it's both for adults, but also for children. As you see down to the left, to develop and implement an individualized vision-related rehabilitation program for visually impaired children. It's about education, it's about inclusion in a school for all, as we say it in Scandinavian countries, but also very much about these psychological and social dimensions. And it's about the general health perspective, about the healthcare policy, because we need to know about it, both at a national, but also at European level. It's about communication, and of course about education, and also about collaboration. And also some transverse activities have been developed, and it's about monitoring, recording in relation to vision health. It's also about researching, about research and development, professional approaches, organizing and scheduling. So it's really a lot. It's really a lot. But to give you more, you have some kind of a feeling what this is about. If you continue here, we have this key activity, and we have chosen about this one, about orientation and mobility. And it says to implement mobility and orientation training with visually impaired persons in collaboration with a wider healthcare team. And for doing this new profession really need to have these core competencies that's listed here. You see, it's many of them. But competencies to apply orientation and mobility techniques, both indoors and outdoors. It's about mapping, about environmental adaptations, body awareness technique, use of the white cane. You are very familiar with these subjects here when you are visiting this conference. So it is a part, it's integrated in this wider curriculum. And also here, so if you look at this, it's you start from this professional profile to the higher education curriculum. And then we have this visual disabilities rehabilitator. And a training course includes 89 learning outcomes. And they are grouped in 17 units of learning outcomes. And that relates to the profile that was identified in the Delphi study. So that's why the project started with the Delphi study. And when it comes to this curriculum, there are 4 pillars. The first, it is learning outcome oriented. And this is in reliance with higher education and the European Union standards. And the second one, it's modular and flexible, and that it will also be adaptable to European Union countries. And here we have a lot of guidelines. There is an overall curriculum, but each country can develop their own course, you could say. So we have developed actually 4 courses. One I've developed for Sweden, we have from Italy, we have from France, and we have from Lithuania in this project. And the entry level is EQF6. And we want to go to the master degree, EQF7. And when working the courses, it is work-based learning, it's transdisciplinary, and that is also very important. It's in agreement with the work in the teams. There are a lot of innovative pedagogies, as we heard also during these days. And there are also, when it's possible, e-learning. That's not possible for everything, as you know, but for where it's possible to have it. And then if we go to the next slide here, it's just also an example for orientation and mobility. The learning outcomes is here to implement mobility and orientation training with visually impaired persons in collaboration with a wider healthcare team. And the learning outcomes, there are so many here, it's listed. This is guiding the courses, the teaching and the students' learning. I think you are all familiar with this. So that's the first slide, and then we have another slide also. I'm not going to read all of this, but it's just an example so you know how detailed it is. If we go to the next one. So each of these learning outcomes, as it usually is, it's defined as a knowledge, a skill, and transversal competencies. And some of them are very many, I could say, they are mandatory, but they are also optimal because it's possible to choose if you want to develop a curriculum for 60 ECTS or 120 ECTS. By now we have developed 60 ECTS. But to do an exam, to about courses in methodology, that is not included. So this is more about vision rehabilitation. So just one example here. It's a small one. Some of the other are more bullet points. But this learning outcome is know how to verbalize the environment according to the user's needs and to be able to teach it to visually impaired persons. So here you have an example of the knowledge is one point, and how that is described. You have the skills, and you have also the personal and transversal competencies. And just listen to the needs of the person adapting one's pedagogy. As you know, that is very transversal also to other learning outcomes. So what are we going to do further, and what is this all about? In the project, it's also developed a lot of documents and tools to support the higher education institutions to adopt the curriculum. And all of this material will be on the internet. So it's possible, you could say, that if you are interested in some countries here in Europe or somewhere else, it's possible to use this. But there are specific guidelines for everything. They are quite detailed and you have to work a little bit with it. But we have used these guidelines in 4 of our countries and developed 4 specific courses. And there are guidelines about learning outcomes, how to build the modules, how to organize the work-based learning, to support the innovative pedagogies. And something else we have also developed, as Federica told about when we had this training week. We have also developed a lot of examples, I should say, about learning materials. and they will also be free for everyone to use. Then it's connected to the learning outcomes here. I think you mentioned also, Federica, that there's been developed a special tool that's called Realtor. And that is a device that simulates in real-time visual impairment in low vision conditions to be used as a training tool for operators specialized in the rehabilitation. And in one way, that is also to have the experience of visual impairment and just having your own feelings of it. So that's a special tool. I don't talk so much about that now. But then the future step. We really look forward to cooperate with other institutions, professionals here at European level. And we also want to promote the development of academic courses. We have that level, then we have it on the master level. To further develop innovative methods, which are experiential, to this approach to visual disability training, and also to promote the employment of visual disability rehabilitators or specialists. So you could travel and work in other countries if you would like to do that. And also another point is also to start from the person's perspective. It should be person-centered, and that focus should be integrated in our services for healthcare and also about rehabilitation services. So that's some of the future steps we want to take. And we really want to be in contact with you all to have a discussion if you are interested. We will, as Federica said, finalize the project in July, the 21st of July.